So what are we talking about today? Well, perhaps you're a woman, a person of color, a member of a minority group in the workplace. Perhaps you feel like you're not being taken seriously, or that you don't have the opportunities that your colleagues have. If so, you wouldn't be alone. Many people from underrepresented groups feel like they're the only ones in the room. And I definitely have experienced that feeling myself. According to Catalyst research, Connections That Count, lack of access to networks of influential colleagues underlies all major barriers identified by women of color, including lack of influential mentors or sponsors. So if you don't have those people around you to help you, how can you move on? But when we think about underrepresented groups more generally, there might be a lack of role models, a lack of high visibility assignments that you can be involved in. And all of these things can hold you back. So today we're going to explore what the barriers to networking are for those from underrepresented groups and how to overcome them. This event is aimed at helping you find your way through the complexities of networking when you're in an underrepresented group, or perhaps you want to help someone who maybe struggles. You are most welcome if that's you as well. So during this session, experienced executive coaches, Mark, Hira, Mutiat, Lisa, and Janice, they're going to be discussing networking for career success when you are the only in the room. And my first question is, why can networking be more challenging when you are the only in the room? And what common strategies might not work when you are from an underrepresented group? I'm going to start with, straight back to you, Lisa.
Okay, so it can be challenging simply because you are different on appearance. They appear not to fit in, not to belong, because they don't know you. So 55% of our communication is visual on body language. And networking is about communicating with others to exchange that information, whether it's professional or social contacts that you're trying to make. And the key element of communication is body language, voice, and words. So if we're going on visual and we're looking at that and people are making their perceptions from that, if you appear different, then that is where their perceptions are formed by what they can see. And how you sound, which is 38%, is the next form of how they form opinions about you. So your pitch, your accent, your pace, your tone, all of those things that make you different are actually where people provide judgment on you and are actually forming an opinion. And that's why we have code switching. We've got code switching where people are trying from minority and underrepresented groups, consciously or unconsciously, trying to fit in to their environment in networking. But the common networking strategies that we have, by being prepared, listening, being helpful, being your authentic self, will work for you. They will only not work for you if the people you're trying to network with have their own set perceptions and biases which limit you. And that's where it will cause a problem, because communication is two-way. You need to have both people to be wanting to communicate with each other. And that's the problem that people from an ethnic minority group or a minority group will face, other people's perceptions and biases.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's that point is sometimes you're doing exactly what everyone else is doing, but it doesn't land in the same way. And so you have to sort of find your own way through, or find a sort of warm audience who maybe don't have the same bias. Janice, what are your perspectives on this?
Thank you. I think it can be helpful to perhaps go along and not put so much pressure on yourself, actually, if you're the only in the room, and recognize that you might need to look after yourself before the event and after the event as well, actually, because I think it can take a toll, I think, if you're constantly going to a lot of events and you perceive yourself as being the only in the room, and you may perceive yourself as being not quite fitting in or not quite belonging, actually. So I think if you could take a little bit of pressure from yourself in terms of thinking, okay, maybe I can just go along and try one or two meaningful conversations with people and not try to work the room, actually not ask too much from yourself. I think that can be helpful.
Thank you. And Hira, what are your perspectives on this?
So very similar to what Janice said, and of course Lisa said, I think we experience a culturative stress when it's, the feeling when we have to adapt to the dominant values and culture in the room or in the space. And because of that, we feel like we will probably not be, well, not liked, but we will not be able to relate to people, and people might not be able to relate to us. And I think prioritizing your mental health and psychological safety is very important. So do your research before you go to the events, because not every event is going to be for you. I mean, for example, if I give my own example, being a Muslim woman, I have very specific dietary requirements. I don't eat pork, I eat only halal, I don't drink alcohol. I might need prayer breaks. I might need to break fast if it's Ramadan. So all of that. And I think if you do your due diligence and research before the event, find out what these events are like. If it's a pub event where everybody's going to get drunk in an hour or so, and I probably wouldn't be comfortable going there. So I will opt out no matter how good the opportunity is. This one of the tips which I used to do, which really helped me, was interacting with people beforehand. So I would do my research, find out people, speakers or participants, and then I would send them a message and introduce myself. So making that prior connection so that you have someone to talk to and you don't feel all that awkward when you go to the event might be a useful strategy.
Thank you. Great top tip there. So I'm going to move on to my next question. As someone from an underrepresented group, should you focus on informal or formal networking? Should you try to stand out, or should you try to blend in? Is it better to keep your head down and stay under the radar? What do you think, Mark?
I think if you really want to make a positive impression and move ahead in your career, it's important to do both the informal as well as the formal networking. But the chances are you're likely to prefer one over the other. But I think it's important, if you are strong in one, to do that, but also don't neglect the other. And I think it's important to stand out when you want to move ahead. But that doesn't also mean that you have to be the loudest person in the room and the most pushy person. And I think standing out can mean things like being authentic, just listening, being curious when you're talking to someone, and also being able to articulate your own career story. So, I just think that the danger with maybe just trying to keep your head down is that you may be passed by for opportunities that come up in the future if you're just being quiet. But I think, you don't need to be quiet, but you can just be honest, genuine, and authentic.
Lovely. I think that's brilliant advice. Mutiat, have you got some thoughts on this? Can you not unmute or?
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Yeah, I mean, either the formal or informal networking will be good for anyone. Just as Mark said, you may like one over the other, but trying both gives you a variety of opportunities, like around your sector, around your industry, in the organization. Just saying which one fits your interest the best, or how you like to network, which one suits you the best or the most. See what suits you, see how you can be who you are, be authentic, do your due diligence. Which of these networking sessions will give you the most opportunity that will help you or elevate your career, advance your career? See what you like. Either one would be good, but what's important is the intention you put before any networking session, because as the only in any networking session, the troubles of the biases that other people would have against you, their perspective about you, how you show up, how you be you, all of these things are enough worry mentally and physically for you. So what you want to do is have an intention with regards to you going networking. Have a very good intention. What do you want to get out of this intention? Why am I going? What's the purpose of it? What is it going to land for me? What are the benefits I'm going to, get from that? What am I going to add to make me stand out, to make me a force to be reckoned with, to make me someone of value? How am I going to add value to this? So the intention and the goals that you have for any type of networking that you're going for would really affect what you get from it and how you are able to participate and actually network and get the benefits from it. It's going to also help you with when you ask questions, should you put your head down or should you stand out? It's going to reinforce how you show up in the network, you know, during the sessions. It's going to help you. So having a very good intention of what you want to do, because we've got to be deliberate, especially when you're the only, you've got to be deliberate with what you intend to put in, what you intend to take out.
That's a really good point, this idea of being deliberate. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Shall I, Janice, would you like to add something to that?
All I would say actually to those points made by Mark and Mutiat was that sometimes the formal events can be a bit easier in some respects actually. And I find this as an introvert sometimes, because if there's a talk or a discussion, an actual central topic, it can be easier to initiate conversations around that. So, and they can also be a bit easier to prepare for. So sometimes I think the formal, you can, you know, attend the formal events and have them work in your favor. Like I say, if you're going to a talk that you're genuinely interested in, it may be easier to go up to someone and say, oh, what did you think about that? You know, how did you find it? What key points came out of that for you? And just start a conversation that way.
Lovely. And Lisa, anything to add?
Really, they've both really said it all, haven't they all? But it is about being your authentic self and being decisive about what you want. What do you want from the situation? Do you want to stand out? And do you want to, what sort of impression do you want to leave? So, for example, if you're going for that job, like Mutiat was saying, or the board position or a place on a team, whatever you're going for, you want to stand out in a positive way against the other applicants that have also applied. So just having that intention of what do you want? What impression do you want to leave? And having that at the forefront in the beginning of your interaction will help shape how you interact. Doesn't mean you have to be loud, like Mark said, to stand out. It's what impression do you want to leave? And also just being careful, because if you do put your head above the parapet and you do want to stand out, whether it's something that you're passionate about and you don't agree with and you want to speak up about it, you just have to be aware that there might be an unwanted negative impact, and then be aware of that before you do that, aware of the consequences that may happen, and be prepared to stand by that. A lot of people are surprised by negative reactions to what they've said.
Fantastic, thank you, great points. So what should employers do so that everyone has an opportunity to network for career success? And I'm going to ask Kira first. You're muted.
I think it's very important to organize inclusive events, not just in terms of dietary requirements, but just if you are sharing presentations, share the content beforehand, make sure it's accessible for everyone. And yeah, I think a lot of people would not necessarily like to interact on the golf course or in the pub. So find out what people would be very interested in interacting with, inclusive opportunities. And to the point that if you are feeling awkward or odd, I always used to do this. This is a tip I sort of used when I was starting my career, that I would take a buddy along, and in her way to the job, I would call that a wing person. So recruit a wing person. If you're uncomfortable, take that person with you, and that person is going to, now Janice said this was like the network buddy, and that person can introduce you and you can introduce them, so you can talk up each other. But I think, yes, I think it's very important that organizations start looking at having inclusive events where everybody is going to be comfortable, not just religiously, but also in terms of people have their own caring needs, as a result of which they cannot interact after 5. So find out opportunities where you can perhaps organize networking opportunities during the day.
Lovely, great points. Mutiat, what do you think? What should employers do so that everyone has an opportunity to network for career success?
Organizations should take more interest in their employees networking. They should take so much interest in them getting together, getting along, building that unity within them by promoting much more networking events, educating them on events or networking benefits, so that people can come out and participate. when the organization champions it and say to them, you're going to benefit this, you're going to have these opportunity, so many things are going to open up for you. So they're championing that, they're encouraging the staff members to come out. So when anything goes wrong, you can go back to the organization and say, this wasn't well done, this could have been improved, we could have had that. So organizations should begin to educate their employees on the benefits of networking, put in more effort to ensure that networking is inclusive, just as Ahira said, and then that's people are not excluded, and they have that enhancement to go and participate and be part of it. You know, it builds the framework as well as encouraging people to like network and gain opportunities, really. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. And Mark, the same question.
Yeah, I think, as has already been said, when it comes to networking, one size doesn't fit all. So it's important that organizations are aware of a range of ways that they can sort of provide that platform for formal and informal networking. You know, being aware of what people feel comfortable with and what they feel uncomfortable with. And I just think it's really important that managers, maybe when they're having review meetings with their staff, sit down with them and ask that crucial question that managers should always be asking. How can I help you? You know, what can I do to help you in your career, to advance your career? And then see what you get back. So that communication is really important. And therefore that can then lead to providing more networking opportunities that are going to be suitable for the individual. I mean, I think networking is something that is driven by the individual, but employers can provide that platform to make it happen. And I think also it's more challenging these days as well, because people are working from home a lot more, so it's harder to network. But that just creates more opportunities to think creatively about, okay, how can we bring people together, even if it's online, in a way that, you know, engages everybody and everyone can have a chance to get to know each other, whether it's informal meetings online or formal ones as well. So I think that's important to consider as well.
Brilliant, brilliant question. I'm finding the lack of diversity in the career service is a barrier. The career service is predominantly white, female, and middle class. How can I address this? Really interested in hearing anyone's ideas. Yes, Mark.
I think, you know, this is something that I certainly identify with, because, you know, I'm working in the career sector, I'm a Black male, and the majority of people, like you say, are white, middle-aged females. And all we can do is be ourselves and celebrate what we do in our work and continue to network so we are more visible. So people aren't just seeing the middle-aged white females, but they're seeing us as well. But I think it's also an opportunity to kind of champion diversity in the career sector, you know, speaking to, you know, governing bodies and institutes of careers and so on, and saying, you know, this is something we need to promote. We need to celebrate the career sector, and we need to show that the career sector can be diverse and needs to be more diverse. So, you know, it's a bit of campaigning and also putting yourself out there and doing more networking.
Yeah, and it's a little bit similar to the coaching field, to be honest with you. And that's why we created the Diverse Executive Coach Directory, because there wasn't as many of us represented and we weren't as visible. So perhaps although there isn't much diversity, perhaps you can bring a tribe of career professionals from ethnically diverse backgrounds together, for example, and start building your profile together, because it can be hard when you're fighting a battle on your own. Yeah, so great question. I have another one here. I'm quite analytical. I'm quite an analytical person. Excuse me, and I often have to take time to gauge the room and form my views before I approach. This stems from my views that I'm different and may be seen by some as a threat. Is that a good or bad thing? Is there anything I can do better in my favor? Is that you, Hira? Yeah.
Yes, I was trying to raise my hand. I couldn't find it. I don't think so it's a bad thing at all. I'm sure you have your reasons why you want to exercise caution before approaching people. What you could do is, similar to what I mentioned earlier, is that you could do a bit of research on the event and try and interact with people beforehand, people you think you might be comfortable with. take somebody along who you already know, like a network buddy or a recruiter wing person. And sometimes issuing a disclaimer also helps, so that when you are talking to a group of people or interacting with them, just let them know that this is what I need, and I do need time in order to give my opinions. And I think people will respect that. If you tell them beforehand that this is something I usually tend to do, I don't immediately give out my opinions, or before interacting, I need time, then most people would be happy to give you space.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think that sometimes I have gone to places where I think people look at me and I'm underestimated. And what I've had to do is go back and be quite resilient, so that the first time it's almost like they're looking at me, what are you doing here? And the second time they're thinking, oh, oh, she's come back, what, she must think she's got something to offer us. And the third time they're actually interested in me. So there is something, I think, about your level of perseverance, but it has to be a network that you think is worth you being there. It's worth you going to and putting yourself through that as well.
And Jenny, can I quickly add, not everybody is going to like you. So despite your best efforts, there will be some people who will not engage with you and not interact with you, and that's all right. You don't need to please everyone. They're not your type. That's fine. Just move ahead and go in a space where you would be welcomed and your ideas will be, listened to. So I think that's the pressure also we need to take off from ourselves.
Great, thank you. So we've got a question here around tokenism. So this person is saying that sometimes they feel that diversity is used to tick a box. So they find people are not really interested in actually taking things forward, but they want to show that they are being equal and diverse. So perhaps they're talking to this person because they're pretending to be interested in diversity, and then they walk away and they've ticked a box and had a conversation, but they're not doing anything. So I guess it's a sort of networking where people talk but they don't do, or they're talking to you for a reason but they're not really curious or interested in you. That sort of other people are being shallow in their networking approach as opposed to you. Any thoughts about how to handle that? Yes, Lisa.
I think when you've been given an opportunity, most people from ethnic minority groups that have been given this title of tokenism have probably earned their place, because we have to work harder and be more qualified and more experienced to be able to get into some of these positions in the first place. So that's one. So just believe in yourself and know that you're there because of a reason, because you are valued, and the work that you are doing on your knowledge and experience is needed in that position. If people are not willing to take on board, it's a bit like I said about that, it's two-way communication. It's actually utilizing your position, if you can, to the best advantage to actually change their mindset. We can't make people change or think differently, but we can educate them and make them aware of what's going on. And it's using that position and that time that you have with them to bring it to their awareness. Or I feel that you're not quite listening to me. Did you understand what I said there? Just questioning and reiterating to check their understanding and their thought process, and then being able to challenge it in a loving way, because it's about educating, not criticizing.
Janice wants to add. Great.
Yeah, I just wanted to add very quickly, because I think in conversations like these, you never quite know what you are achieving, actually. And I think sometimes we probably achieve more than we think. We just might not see the outcome. So I think sometimes we plant some seeds, and it may be further down the line that comes to fruition, and that person thinks, oh, okay, maybe I need to take this forward. We don't know, but I completely agree with Lisa. We can't take responsibility for what someone else is going to kind of take on board and move forward with. All we could do is share to the best of our ability. But I think sometimes we probably achieve more than we realize.
It reminds me of someone I know who used to help people, sometimes introduce them to others, and they used to say, can you pay it forward? So I'm fine to give you my time and energy for free, or give you a connection, but I want you to do that to other people. And it might be that you say something like that, oh, I'm really happy to talk about this, but my ask from you is that you take action and you come back to me in a month's time and let me know how far you've got. And then you build some accountability into that conversation, perhaps. So that's another way of looking at it as well. So we have a question here. I currently am working in real estate as a mixed race woman, but I have gained many transferable skills that I know would be valuable in the media, film and TV industry. How can I stand out and use my transferable skills in my CV to get my foot in the media door? The first answer is get a career coach. They will really help you. But any tips from those here?
So could I answer that? My own, yeah. I think, first of all, are you utilizing all your social media platforms? Now, LinkedIn is a great place where you can establish your brand and interact with people in media and make your presence known. And I always say this, tell people this when they are interacting on LinkedIn. They say, oh, you know, I've been posting, but nobody really likes my posts and nobody's following me. And I asked them, have you followed or liked anybody's post? And they said, I haven't. And then I say, of course, it's not going to happen if you do not develop your brand, you develop your relationship. It's very important to nurture the relationship. So you can, first of all, make a resume with your transferable skills at the top and customize it according to whatever the need of the job is. And then find people in that industry where you want to enter and develop relationships with them. Ask them if they can mentor you, ask them if they can, if they're happy to give you some advice. But before that, make sure that there is some sort of reciprocity in the relationship, because networking is not very useful or valuable if you're only taking and not giving back.
Right, thank you. And Mark, I'll come to you afterwards, Muttiat.
Yeah, I think Hira said what I was going to say anyway, but I think, make it make a real effort to try and speak to somebody who works in the industry that you're wanting to get into. And you can do that through social media, or, there might be some personal contacts that you have as well. So I think that's really important. There's a good website, actually, if you are interested in getting into the film industry, called screenskills.co.uk. And that gives you lots of information about different types of jobs within the industry and how you can get into them and so on. So that could be a good starting point as well.
Great, fantastic practical tips. Muttiat.
Yeah, I was just going to add that you could start as a volunteer somewhere, or some sort of apprenticeship to start with, so you gain the experience, you gain the skills, and whilst you're rendering your service, learning more, and before you know what's happening, someone is noticing you. That's, yeah, that way.
Brilliant, thank you. So we have a question here. I've been thinking of asking my manager, who is the deputy CEO, if she has supervised a minoritized person, and if she has any questions about what I might need to think, etc. Should I do this? How might I frame and approach this? I'm the only Black leader in a research and policy charity.
So just to be clear, do you want them to mentor you or be your sponsor?
Their manager.
Their manager, okay,
their
right.
manager. Yeah.
So I think it's important to first understand what you want from them. And yes, go and have a transparent, very honest conversation and say that, I have noticed that there are not many people like me that you have managed before. And I was wondering if I could help you in creating more awareness, or if you had any questions with respect to our needs. So something of that sort. But it's not easy, and you probably might not feel comfortable, but I think having an honest and transparent conversation, and the way you frame it, do some preparation beforehand, and then approach them and find out what exactly is it that they're looking for, because sometimes it's very helpful to project your needs in terms of what the manager needs. You just heard better.
Yes, Muttiat.
Okay. In doing that as well, I was thinking you can actually write down what you intend, the outcome that you intend for that conversation to have, why you want to have that conversation, what do you want to get from it, how is it going to add to you and your team, possibly, how is it going to add to your manager or your organization or your department. When you have a set of goals or outcome that you've outlined, it's going to make the conversation, one, strategic, two, it's going to make it easier. You're going to have a flow because you have a blueprint of what you are intending to to tell them and then the outcome you want to get. So all you need is a blueprint. Why do you want to have this conversation? How is it going to add to you? How is it going to add to them? How is it going to be a win-win? How am I going to make them listen to me? That sort of thing is going to make it a lot easier for you to have that, because that's going to be a difficult conversation. But once you have an outline and an intention and a goal, then it makes it a lot easier for you to have that conversation.
Yeah, I can see, and Lisa had her hand up as well. I just want to say, remember that as we're asking a lot of questions, and the focus was networking specifically today. So if you have any networking specific questions, it would be great to put them in the chat. But Lisa, I think you had something to say on this question.
Yeah, I was just going to add to what Hira and Mutia has said. Sometimes it's nice to start off with that informal networking with your line manager and build that relationship, so that you feel both of you feel more comfortable having those difficult conversations with each other, because they know what place it's coming from, a place of trust and mutual respect. And so sometimes it's building that trust between you so that you can have those difficult conversations.
Yeah, and I think it can be as difficult or as easy as you want to make it as well.
Yeah,
because it can also be, how was your weekend? Or my weekend was great. I had these foods that are from my heritage. Do you know them? And you can start it that way. So we can make it a sort of formal, heavy conversation, or we can start light and open the door, slightly, and then make our way into it. So I think there's lots of different ways to think about it and look at it. I've got so many questions here today, all really interesting. Let's see. There was one about resilience I'll come to, because I actually think that part of networking, you do need a little bit of resilience actually, to be able to just keep showing up, and for some more than others. So they've asked, any tips on resilience? The more senior I've become with a recent promotion and team size, the more isolated I feel. So I think that's a great question for our coaches. We've got Mutia and Janice.
Okay. Seniority, or the higher you go, the higher you get, the more isolated you will be. That is the truth. Okay. You just need to get yourself comfortable by building a community around yourself. It's part of the things you do. Build your community. Find the people that you can network with. Find the people you can work with, collaborate. Then build a team of people coming after you. Lead them by example and show them the way, so that you can have a team of people you can always rely on, that's going to help your work, that's going to showcase what you're doing, because you're doing the hard work. If you don't have reliable people you have trained, people you've mentored, it's going to be hard for your hard work to show. So have your community, build a team of people you can rely on, people you know that you've invested in, and then they can show up for you and help your work should really show up and bring you up. But the higher you go, the more isolated you're going to be. So you just find a mechanism to help you to build that community around yourself, and network more with other people. Make yourself available for others so that other people will be available for you.
Great. We'll go to Janice and then to Mark.
Yeah, I was going to say quite a bit of what Mutiet has already said about building the community around you. And there's a wonderful saying, if you can find the people that celebrate you rather than just tolerate you, build that community around you as well, actually. But also, I think it's important to practice self-care, because if you're constantly going into an arena where you're feeling you're not necessarily being able to be your authentic self, then I think you need to practice some self-care and make sure that you look after yourself, whatever it is you need to do, whether it's exercise, just check on your nutrition, all sorts of different things that help you to manage your self-care. But the community, I think, is a really big part of this, actually. And if you can build a community around you, like people that you trust, that you can sort of share, oh no, this wasn't such a great day, people that you can trust and who can be your authentic self with, then I think that will help you enormously.
Lovely, thank you. And Mark?
Yeah, I think that when you progress within your career, or you might go up a particular ladder, your network changes. So I think it's important to every now and again do a network stop take, if you like, and review who are the people in your network. So first of all, you've got your sort of emotional network, because everybody needs to have a best friend at work who you can be open with and share stuff with, how things are going with you in work. But then there's also your sort of informational network, the people who are now the people that you need to be connecting with in order to continue to advance your career, who are the people with the know-how, they know the unwritten rules and so on. So, you know, find a range of different types of people in different types of networks and continue to review that and assess who are the sorts of people you feel that you need to be connecting with and networking with that's going to help you and give you that support.
Absolutely, thank you. And there's a question here about the comment I made around paying it forward and how can you do that if you're junior? I think there are so many ways. I think you will have something to offer more senior people. You don't only have to pay it forward cascading downwards, you can also pay it forward upwards. There'll be lots of things that you know that more senior people in your organization don't. Access to communities that they might not have access to, ways of doing things and thinking about things. So you have something to offer everyone, or it might even be colleagues that you could share information with. So once you open your eyes to opportunities, there's always something, and it doesn't have to be about seniority. It can be around perspective or specialism. There are just so many ways that you will have knowledge that other people don't. So just seek out those opportunities or save the knowledge until there is someone you can give it to. It's not until you mentor other people that you realize how much you know. You know, that can be such a great thing to do. Buddying with someone who's new, for example, you'll be that little bit ahead of them. So I wanted to ask one final question to the coaches, actually, and that was, you know, what is your ultimate top tip for someone who wants to improve their networking skills? And I'm going to start with Mutiat.
Okay, to improve your networking skills, you need to build some social skills. And when I say some social skills, is build your confidence, have a lot more confidence in yourself. Confidence is almost anything and everything. When you can build that confidence, and how you build your confidence is reassure yourself of who you are. What are your values? What do you stand for? What stands you apart from other people? That way you can walk into that room and assert yourself and know that you belong there. So that is one of the ways you can actually improve your networking skills.
Yeah, something you said when we talked previously, which I thought was so important, was this idea of following up. Tell me why that's important, Mutiat. You're muted.
Yes, following up. That is very, very important. That is crucial because we go networking and we get all the contacts, we chat to people, we laugh together, we have discussions, and after that, you don't follow up. No, that's not good. I mean, you're throwing away all of the value that you've got from the networking session if you don't follow up. And following up shows that you are committed. You're committed to your growth. You're committed to the discussion or the conversation you had. You're committed to the networking session. And that's where you're going to reap the benefit, because from there, you're going to have more discussions. You're going to have more opportunities open up for you. People will invite you to other events. So following up is really, really crucial. And you follow up via email, follow up by inviting other people to maybe networking sessions, follow up via social media, different ways of following up. But it is very, very important to follow up after networking sessions.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And Mark, your top tips?
I'll say a couple of things, actually. I think, first of all, we touched on this earlier. It's just about being authentic and being curious when you're talking to somebody. You know, it's not just about you doing the talking. The more interested you are in somebody else, the more of an impression I think you'll make on them. So, you know, I always say seek first to understand and then be understood. So, you know, be curious, ask lots of questions. But also, I think it's important to practice saying out loud what you would want to say to somebody if you're in that ideal position where you can network. You know, people talk about the elevator pitch as if you've got, you know, you meet somebody who your ideal person to network with is, and then you freeze and you think, oh, afterwards you say, oh, I should have said this, I should have said that. So maybe think about the key things that you would want to say if you get an opportunity to network. Practice saying it out loud. You know, make sure you're coming across as being open, honest, authentic. And the more you practice, the more natural you'll be when the situation arises.
Love that. Thank you. Janice?
Thank you. I would say go along and be open to learning something new and to do that, I think if you practice your listening skills, if people are feeling heard and listened to and understood, I think that's more likely to build that initial trust and that bond. So even if that happens to 2 or 3 people in an event, I think that's a real result. So that's certainly one of my big tips. Be open to learning something new and being fully present so that you can listen to so that people feel heard.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Hira?
I think it's important to make it doable and manageable for you. So creating a sort of a networking plan always helps. So I'm going to network with at least 3 people for the next 3 months or 5 people. And it doesn't always have to be in-person events, because now, thankfully, post-COVID, we are now doing so many online, virtual dates. So make use of that. And then social media is great. Reach out to people through social media. And if networking is something which you're still not comfortable with, and start one-to-one conversations and meetups. I think that will really help. But I think I read a question somewhere, which was a very important question, Jenny, and said that what do we do when people expect us to represent the entire community? And sometimes people can ask awkward and personal questions. And the way I deal with this is I always use humor. I remember going to this event and this one person was saying, "Oh, you write a lot about Muslim women. So tell me what's going on with Muslims these days." And it's just a very awkward question, because that was such a broad question. I said, "Oh, you would have to pay me consulting fees for that." So, sometimes the use of humor and making them reflect on their questions, how awkward it was, or, when they are expecting you to have information on the entire community, really helps deflect that pressure. So that's important, but prioritize your mental health and your psychological safety, because that's very important.
Brilliant, thank you. And Lisa?
It's been said, I believe, a few times now, but just like most relationships, it's having that mutual trust and shared benefits. So knowing what you can bring to the table and sharing that, and being trustworthy. Knowing your benefits, like I just said, what you can bring, share it with others, not just take, and also being willing to be there for other people. So I believe that if you're kind or you're nice to someone or helpful to someone, they'll be that back to you. You'll get it back. So shared experiences, understanding brings understanding. Be yourself, be authentic, be trustworthy. And that will strengthen the commitment and the trust between you and the people that you're trying to relate with.
Absolutely agree. Mutiat, you want to say something briefly?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, it's quite unpopular, but visualize being comfortable with no networking sessions. Visualize talking to other people. Visualize you being the best you can be, and you never know. You get there and it will just happen, because you have seen it within you. You will see it happen for real.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Mark said, consider it as a privilege when you're the only one in the room. So I think approaching that from that perspective also helps.
I personally as well think networking is just an ongoing journey, that you never arrive. You're just always on that journey. And they always say nurture your network before you need it. So that idea of nurture these relationships. Don't only start networking when you need someone for something, because it doesn't feel good to be only called on when someone needs you. But if people really are interested in you, curious about you, want to build a relationship with you, they become part of your community, and then absolutely you can call on them, but they can call on you too. So this ongoing journey is what it's all about, from my perspective. I think you got a lot, such a wealth of knowledge from our amazing coaches today.